How's it going, everybody? This is the Nitty Gritty. We are back with you, and this week, Leonard and myself are going to bring you another collection of our Fever Dream Matches series. We had so much fun doing that last time, we decided we would do it again. Only this time, last time I did the random name generator drawings. This time, Leonard is going to do it, so I can't see them first. He will see them first, and I will be able to react to them that way. So it should be a lot of fun, actually. And this week we added a match. We're going to do a women's match. We are going to do a tag team match with two random people on both sides. We're going to do a triple threat match with a gimmick attached to it like we did before. And we are going to do our Fatal 4-Way main event. However, Brian Pillman Jr. is our champion, so he will be in that main event defending his title against three others. We will see.
Yeah.
So, Leonard,
yeah,
why don't you get us started?
Yeah. So again, we don't know what the matchups are going to be before we go on. Chad has sent me a name generator website that we're using, and he made some lists up. It's about 600 guys, about 100 women on that list, and the about 60 on the gimmick match list. So while I was talking there, I generated our female match, and it's a 5-star classic. And Chad knows this is not going to be good because I said that. It is Debra versus Vickie Guerrero.
Okay.
So Debra, of course, is the former wife of Steve McMichael and Steve Austin, who was a valet for a few different guys over the years. She may be best remembered for having worked with Jeff Jarrett and Owen Hart before his death, unfortunately. She was WWE Women's Champion, I believe, at one point. And then, of course, Vickie Guerrero is the widow of Eddie Guerrero, who wound up working for the WWE after Eddie's death in a valet capacity, general manager capacity, worked with a bunch of guys. She's probably worked a match here and there, but yeah, considering the era of women's wrestling that we are in, we get Debra versus Vickie Guerrero. And Chad, who you got in this one?
Well, I don't want to sound like one of those guys with no class, but based on how Vickie Guerrero exited the WWE, I think it was being in a mud pit match with Stephanie McMahon, I believe, was one of her last things.
Could have been, yeah.
I feel like this match would be entertaining if it was in something like that, but we have no gimmicks in this one, so we can't really say that.
I can give it a gimmick if you want one.
No, that's all right.
All right.
I honestly think this is really easy, and I think Vickie Guerrero takes this without any issues. I think that she's got just a little more fire to her than Debra does. Debra is a very beautiful woman, but I don't see her being able to hold her own against the Latina heat of Vickie Guerrero. So I think that this is a short, really scrappy, sloppy match, but I think Vickie Guerrero easily wins this. What say you?
I think Vickie is the heel here and Debra the face, most likely. I think it would probably be very entertaining to see how we would get to a match between these two. And yeah, there would probably be some sort of gimmick involved. I think Vickie winds up winning because she's the heel. She would cheat, or she would have someone on the outside cheating for her. Debra really, not a great talent inside the ring. So yeah, it's a hard match to talk about or to call because of who's involved. And I think you just have to go with Vickie on, if you're booking it and she's the heel, I think you book her to go over in something that is short and gimmicky.
All right. So moving up our female card, we have Blue Pants with a victory, and we have Vickie Guerrero with a victory. So who knows who's going to be the first women's champion down the road?
Oh, or we should throw all of them in a battle royal. Keep the names. We'll throw them in a battle royal here in a few weeks or whatever when we get that far. So next is our tag match, and again, it's going to be 4 random names, and I'm looking at the names. So 4 random names, the first 2 guys versus the second 2 guys, and we'll talk about the team that we think they would be and then maybe a team name if we can think of something. So team number 1 is Mil Mascaras and Damian Sandow. And they will be taking on Killer Kowalski and Rico.
Okay.
So Mil Mascaras is of course a legend of Mexico, who I believe Mil Mascaras is like man of 1,000 masks or 1,000,000 masks or something like that. I know I'm going to get crucified for not knowing what that is. Damian Sandow, of course, worked in WWE, doing several different gimmicks. I actually saw him wrestle in West Virginia and Wheeling back when he was Idol Stevens. And of course, he's been with TNA and he's been with the NWA recently. Killer Kowalski is an all-time legend who trained a bunch of guys. And Rico, if I'm remembering correctly, was he the stylist for Billy and Chuck? So that's our tag teams: Mil Mascaras and Damian Sandow versus Killer Kowalski and Rico. So Chad, what's your idea on who wins that one?
This is tough. I mean, when you mention Mil Mascaras, I often I just think of something to wrestle with Bruce Pritchard, who had a famous story where, Mil Mascaras was in WWF for like a battle royal or one match or something like that. And, he famously, when they wanted to see if he would lose, he said, no yob. So he didn't do any jobs. So this would be a tough one, honestly, because I think that Rico and Damian Sandow match up pretty well together. And I think Killer Kowalski and Mil Mascaras would match up pretty well together. Yeah. So I actually think that this would be a pretty even competitive match. You have you have some of the old school and you have some more modern. Whenever I think of Rico, I guess a lot of people probably think of his pro wrestling history, but I reviewed long ago for the website Leonard and I wrote for 411. I reviewed the first season of American Gladiators, and he won one of the big events on that. Rico did when he was Rico Constantino. Anyway,
yeah, I agree with you. This is kind of an odd matchup in the fact that different members, while the teams don't make sense, who they would be going against does.
Right.
I don't think you gave your winner yet. So
no, I would give a slight edge to Killer Kowalski and Rico here, simply because I think they would have more power, more athletic ability. I think the combination of power and athleticism there, I think, would win over the other two. Mil Mascaras, was never really that great in the ring, in my opinion. Damian Sandow, I thought, was underrated, actually, and was a great character, but I don't see that team winning. I see it being Killer Kowalski and Rico.
Okay. Again, this feels really close. It's really hard to argue one way or the other because of who's involved here. I have to agree with you that if I'm going Mil Mascaras versus Killer Kowalski, I give the nod to Kowalski. If I'm going Damian Sandow versus Rico, I probably give the nod to Sandow. As a team, I think Kowalski and Rico maybe get along better, especially if it's Rico Constantino, former cop turned American Gladiator,
right,
than it is homosexual hairstylist Rico with the big mutton chops. I don't know if Kowalski drives with that. So Sandow would probably work the imitation gimmick where he would wear a Mil Mascaras mask.
Yeah,
would be my guess here. As much as I want to argue the other side because you went with Kowalski and Rico, I find it hard to do that. So I'm gonna also give the nod to Kowalski and Rico. But it's even. This will end up being tougher than I would have thought after first looking at it. So we're gonna move on to our triple threat match, which is going to have a gimmick to it. And I'll get the guys first, and then we will see what gimmick these guys will be working under. So it is 3. Oh, this is good. We finally got a decent one. I'm not lying to you. So we have The Rock versus Balls Mahoney versus Ministry Taker. This is the very specific Ministry version of The Undertaker. And now these guys need a gimmick match. The gimmick is an exploding ring death match. It just says exploding ring, but I threw in death match because it's an exploding ring. So The Rock versus Balls Mahoney. I don't. Balls Mahoney is probably the only guy I need to mention here. The fact he wrestled for ECW, that's probably how he's most known.
Right.
For everyone knows Rock, everyone knows Taker. Of course, this is a very specific version of Undertaker. Chad put on some very specific gimmicks of some guys, so we could even wind up with like a four-way of just Undertakers at some point.
I would love that.
Yeah,
I would have a field day with that one.
Yeah, but here we have this very specific ministry taker.
Why don't you give your thoughts this time?
Oh, you want my thoughts first? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, this is like the first kind of good match that we came up with. I mean, Rock and Undertaker, of course, have wrestled before. Never in an exploding ring. I think exploding ring leans towards Balls Mahoney, who was, of course, ECW, wrestled that hardcore style. Balls feels like he's going to be in the middle, so it's like Rock can work with Mahoney and Undertaker can work with Mahoney, and then they save Rock versus Undertaker for the end of the match type of thing. So he's the buffer in there. I would love to know how we got to this in an exploding ring as well. So we should start doing some fancy writing to go with all this. This is, part of me wants to give the win to Balls Mahoney because of the exploding ring, but I just can't. You just can't against Ministry Taker and Rock. So with that being given, I am going to give the win to Ministry Taker because it again is in an exploding ring. So that's a gimmick that I think favors the Undertaker. And again, Undertaker versus Rock, that could go either way. So I'm leaning towards the gimmick and giving Ministry Taker the win here.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you on this one. I think Ministry Taker is one of my favorite versions of Taker, by the way. The whole satanic look with the goatee I just thought was really great, and he was very evil. And I think that I think he definitely edges out The Rock here. I think if anything, Balls Mahoney is the type of guy that would help Ministry Taker defeat The Rock.
I think he would be in the Ministry. This might wind up being a handicap match.
Yeah. He would take like the Midian role or something.
Yeah.
And so based on that, I definitely think Ministry Taker wins this. I do agree with you that the gimmick certainly favors him. The Undertaker's been in Inferno matches, maybe not this version of Taker, but still he's familiar with gimmick matches. So I think Ministry Taker, certainly wins this, and we'll have to keep the Ministry Taker in mind down the road for a future title shot.
Yes. So one thing we talked about was doing like picking odd titles and putting on titles together. So having someone have a weird title. So here's our main event. Again, Brian Pillman Jr. is defending his title from before. And once again, it's a bag of weird. we have Brian Pillman Jr. defending against the Berserker, Hack Myers, another ECW alum, and Sami Zayn.
Okay.
So, of course, we mentioned Brian Pillman Jr., son of Brian Pillman Sr. He's working the indie circuit right now. We both think he's got a great career ahead of him. The Berserker was also known as Nord the Barbarian, I believe Nord the Viking in other areas. He was known for screaming "Huss" and throwing his opponents out of the ring and winning by countout. That was his gimmick.
I remember just the Huss thing.
Yeah, Huss throwing people out of the ring. Hack Myers, again, as we mentioned, he's another ECW alum. So a guy in that hardcore.
I literally know nothing about Hack Myers.
I know Hack Myers is an ECW dude, and his name is Hack Myers.
Yeah. I'm not sure if either of us are going to pick Hack Myers to be the champion.
Yeah, I was remember it's Hack Myers. There was one guy in ECW whose hometown was the last house on the left. Was that Hack Myers?
It sounds like it could be. We'll correct it in here if it's not.
Yeah, or I'll as you talk, I'll look it up. And then Sami Zayn, of course, is the current IC champion as of this taping. has been with WWE for a few years now. Also worked under a mask as El Generico, great all-around talent. I'll let you talk while I look up Hack Myers.
And I need to put El Generico on the list somewhere. So yeah, this is definitely a huge pile of randomness going on here, and I would vote definitely for the Berserker to be kind of that aimless wanderer in the match, just kind of, doing his Huss thing, and maybe he and Hack Myers battle it out on the outside. I really think that this comes down to Brian Pillman Jr. against Sami Zayn, which is actually a match that could work really well, I think, in a perfect world.
Yeah.
But I think Brian Pillman Jr. loses his title here, and I'm going to have to give the vote to Sami Zayn. I think he's too good. He's too great in the ring, too streamlined. Brian Pillman Jr. is a new champ and still green, and I don't see the Berserker or Hack Myers making any bit of a dent in this match. I think that they end up battling each other, and I think it becomes a battle of these two high-flying guys, and I think Sami Zayn easily wins this.
See, again, we can't dispute it. Yeah, I mean, the Berserker and Hack Myers probably does their thing around the ring. They probably brawl off at some point and just let the other two go.
It's funny, we said that last time too.
Yeah,
like we always have two guys that battle into the back.
Just have to get rid of two guys so the other two can go at it. It's a great as you said, I think this could be a really good match between these two guys, especially as Pillman Jr. gets more seasoned and hopefully moves up the ladder. It's maybe even a match we could see within the next 5 years. Who knows? And we did it here first before anybody else ever thought of it. But yeah, I think just Sammy's talent, the level that Sammy's at, I think gives him the nod here. I definitely think he's working heel. He's great as a heel.
Yeah.
So he probably wins with a pull of the tights or something of that nature. But yeah, I think we're both in agreement that Sammy will get the win here.
So Leonard, if we're doing we can add a wrinkle here. If Sami Zayn is also in our next match, we could have a bonus round here where we have our two triple threat match winners, Mojo Rawley against Ministry Taker, and who ends up being, as another part of a fatal four-way the next time we do this. So we would have Sami Zayn and whoever we think would win between Ministry Taker and Mojo Rawley. So Leonard, what do you think? Who would come out on top on that one?
As much as I just want to argue Mojo Rawley for the sake of arguing Mojo Rawley,
That's funny. I thought about that too. Yeah, I was like, maybe I'll just be contrary just for the hell of it.
Again, it's any version of the Undertaker is a great version. He always had fun characters to go with. Mojo, again, is Mojo, and so. Yeah, I don't think you can argue much against Ministry Taker taking that win.
Right. So it'll be interesting next time because we'll have Sami Zayn and Ministry Taker in our main event Fatal 4-Way, and Mojo Rawley has to move down the card, sadly. So
yeah. Hey, before you want to do a dark main event because I was clicking some buttons, just click them, and
sure, why not?
Here I'm gonna give you a mixed tag match. So two guys against two girls that I popped up here. So we've got Test and Asuka versus APA Bradshaw and Rhea Ripley.
Okay. That would Test and Asuka against APA Bradshaw and Rhea Ripley. Well, honestly, I think this comes down to the two guys because I think the females in this case are very evenly matched.
Mm-hmm.
Rhea Ripley I like a lot. Asuka I like a lot. I think that would be a very competitive, very even match all in all. So I think this comes down to Bradshaw against Test, and the clothesline from hell wins every time, in my opinion. So I'm going to go with Rhea Ripley and APA Bradshaw.
Yeah. See, now Test and Asuka could be TNA still.
Yeah, they could, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know, like APA, Rhea Ripley, I'm thinking maybe they could just be the Rippers. Bradshaw and Ripley.
He could have been a female member of the APA. I think that could have worked.
Yeah. With her gimmick. That's why when I was just kind of clicking to see, okay, what's next. Like, I'm going to be sitting here doing this all night when we go off the air and just keep clicking and seeing what I get. Like roulette. It's like, oh, that's a good. Oh no, that's a bad one. So I just clicked, and when those names came up, I was like, oh well, that's not bad. Like that's not
Right.
a bad match. I don't think. Maybe somebody a little bit better than Test on the Oscar side, but that's a fun match. Again, I think we could keep doing these all night. I think we could do this every week. Maybe we won't, but as you could tell, you out there watching, we have a ball doing this.
Absolutely.
And yeah, it's interesting who
Is that who you would vote for too? Bradshaw and Rhea Ripley?
Yeah, I think you have to. I think there's more of a cohesion between Bradshaw and Ripley, most likely, than Test and Oscar.
I feel like Test would get annoyed by not understanding what Oscar says.
Yes, I think she would be like barking orders at him.
Yeah,
and he would just,
which would be hilarious, by the way. See, now I want to see this.
Yeah.
This is we're going down ridiculous rabbit holes at this point.
Yes, at this point. Again, Rhea Ripley could be a member of the APA. That's a gimmick. I think that's fine. I think that's more a cohesive unit. So therefore, they get the win. And I would love to see Asuka sell the clothesline from hell. I would love to see her take that. Because I think she does the Marty Jannetty, like, 360 flip sell and lands on her head.
We'll go certifiably insane. We'll start a stable here. Rhea Ripley is now part of the APA, and we'll do stable matches down the road.
Yeah, we could. Yeah, we can have a 6-man tag match, trios title.
People will stumble across this video and they'll be like, "What the hell are these guys talking about?"
As we form the Fever Dream Wrestling Federation,
Yeah.
and we keep padding it out. But yeah, again, I could keep doing this all night, but we won't.
Right.
But I hope you guys enjoy this as much as we do, and I definitely think this is going to be a staple we'll do for a while, just because it's just so much damn fun to do.
Absolutely. Well, for Leonard, my name is Chad. We thank you very much for joining us. We hope that you had fun, and I'm sure we will be bringing this to you again because, as Leonard said, it is a blast to do, and just to spitball, because there aren't too many dream matches, actual dream matches, left out there that I really want to see. And, before we sign off here, is there any off the top of your head, Leonard? I can only think of one, and I've been preaching about it to some of my friends for years, and they honestly get sick of me talking about it. I don't know if it's ever going to happen at this point.
Really? Tell me, what is it?
I would still love to see Bobby Lashley and Brock Lesnar. I think that would be a really cool match to see. I think Bobby Lashley's stint in TNA is going to – I think it's going to be really hard for Vince to push him to the moon based on that. I hope I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, at this point, Lesnar is not even signed with the company. So, I mean, it really is, a fantasy in that way. It seemed there were times when they were both there, obviously, and it could have happened. But for whatever reason, they just kind of kept moving Bobby Lashley down the card. So that's the one that pops into my head. But I don't know. Is there any that you have?
Not really. The one that, again, now it would be terrible. But, Sting versus The Undertaker, that people talked about for years, that we never got. I mean, there would have been a choice time where that would have been a great match in the mid 90s.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that it's never going to happen, and now it would just be really, really sad.
Right.
Unless they did some sort of movie style match, like what they did with Styles and Undertaker. And I think you're going to get maybe more ideas of dream matches because there's more out there now. I think there's guys that are starting to rise up through the different indie circuits, through AEW, through TNA. And so you're going to get to the point where seeing some of those guys against some of the WWF guys are going to be more interesting. Not really something you could do now, but a match that, I talked about before how much I loved the Power when I started watching that. Nick Aldis versus Ric Flair would be a heck of a dream match.
Sure.
To that, of course, we couldn't see now, but the way that Aldis has been working that character is really great, and I would love to see Aldis come into WWE at some point.
See, in that way, that might be our first disagreement. I don't want to see him in WWE.
And why
because
not?
I don't think they'd be able to. I don't know. I don't think they'd know what to do with him. I really don't. I don't think that they would let him be that character there. I would love to see him in AEW.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
liking AEW like more and more every week, and I think that he would fit easily into because they don't really have a character exactly like that there. So like
no.
I mean they have there's some similarities from other guys, but I think he would really go well in AEW, and I think he would fit well into the title picture there.
Yeah,
So
I would love to see him against Chris Jericho. Maybe that could be
yeah,
a dream match you would mention. Would be that him against Moxley and some of the other guys there. Uh, yeah, he's a guy I was really impressed with when Power came on. So again, if you and again that fantasy wrestling I do, that is where I make a lot of dream matches. You know, right now, actually, in the one Fed I've got Nick Aldis and I've got Ric Flair. I haven't done that yet, but I'm feuding Edge with Sting. I'm feuding Steve Austin with Randy Savage, which only happened one time
right.
during a U.S. tournament where it was a quick win for Savage. I'm doing Dave Batista versus Brian Cage. Again, I don't want to go off on a whole tangent here. Oh, I am doing Strike Force versus the Midnight Express in the feud right now as
Oh,
well.
that would be a good match.
Yeah, so it's fun to talk things like this, but now
Absolutely,
we're going way off on a tangent.
we
So
are. That's all right.
since
This one was
I've
my
got
fault.
the list on my end and I did the hosting for this episode, I'm going to do the sign off.
All right.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you come back again for this and other topics that we're going to talk about. We're talking about doing another feature, talking about a general topic like we've done in the past. We're going to do another spotlight we've been talking about. And so there's a tease for you. So for Chad Webb and myself, Leonard Hayhurst, we'll see you next time in the Nitty Gritty.